And it's a very good morning to the Gelding. Good morning, Gelding. And we're going to Flemington. If we wanted to go to Randwick today, we'd be in trouble.
Good morning, Professor. Good morning, listeners. Yes, Randwick abandoned. Don't know the story there yet, Professor, but obviously no races there, so we can't follow James McDonald today. So he's obviously got the day off with the races abandoned there. So, yeah, we'll head to Flemington. And, Professor, could we have been there in person ourselves at Flemington?
Well, if only.
Maybe you might want to fill the listeners in on that.
Well, a horse that you and I have a small investment in, Gelding, Savvy Rocker, ran at Ballarat on Tuesday and saluted.
Saluted.
Yes.
At the juicy odds.
At the juicy odds of 30 to 1.
Wow. Well, and I took 19.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. Professor, I'm happy anytime a horse gets up and pays you $19, I'm happy.
Yes. Well, Gelding,
I'll take the 19 quite readily, Professor.
And the horse, luckily for us, the horse is Super Vobis qualified, so there was additional prize money.
Yeah. You're disappointed your trainer didn't back it up on today in the first race?
Probably could have run in race 1 today, Gelding.
Well, it was nominated for the race, Professor.
Yes, perhaps it should have run in that one instead of Ballarat, Gelding. But then again, I think the horse did really surprise us. We thought it would go well, but over that distance, it was a bit of a surprise.
And Professor, do you want to fill the listeners in on your trainer? Did your trainer tell you to back it?
No, actually, the trainer told me that the stablemate had a better chance.
Didn't he say it would be too sharp for our horse?
I think we were a bit too sharp for it, Gelding. Anyway, that capped off a very nice 96 hours in racing for us, Gelding, because followers of GM Racing and the That's Racing program would have had a very good day and a little bit of a fill-up last Saturday when not only did we get 2 winners and 2 placings, but also got the place parlay up and the Professor's win and place parlay up.
Very, very nice, Professor. So, and we weren't that far away from our win parlay.
No, we were not.
So, hopefully in a bit of form. And that keeps your Professor parlay well over the 50% mark, does it, Professor?
At 50, Gelding, 12 from 24. So we're at 50%. We're back to the 50%, so I'm happy about that. There's a smile on my face today.
Professor, as I keep saying, anyone where you're picking 3 bets and you're winning 1 out of every second, it's doing very well. Sorry, Professor, I've got a bit of the sniffles today.
Well, Gelding, I've had them for the last 4 or 5 days, and I've been taking cold and flu remedies to try and ward them off, and that's the only reason my nose isn't running is because I've been taking them. So otherwise, I'm sure there'd be a fountain here. Now, Gelding, before I ask you for your tips today, we can't let this go, and I know it's without notice, but I just made a little note here in my book. I'm not going to ask you questions, but it was announced during the week that Brett Preble, after 21 years in the saddle, started riding in 1993. He's hung up the whip and the saddle and the silks, and he's leaving horse riding.
Well, he's leaving horse riding, Professor, but race riding. But he still has a business where he makes whips.
Yes,
called a Persuader and in gear for jockeys. So not lost to the racing world. Of course, his son's a rider, but Brett Preble, champion rider, Melbourne Cup winning jockey, Golden Slipper winning jockey, Caulfield Cup winning jockey for your trainer, Peter Mooney, in Incentivise. Out of the big 4, the only one missing is the Cox Plate. And, of course, Brett was in Hong Kong for many years, Professor, was a leading jockey over there And in fact, couple of years, was very close to winning the premiership over there. Douglas White, the South African jockey, used to dominate over there. So, and Brett was right up there, and that's including times when Shane Dye and Darren Beedman were over there riding as well. So, a very competent jockey, had the record for most wins at Flemington over the 4 days of the spring campaign, until beaten by James McDonald. So, very, very successful jockey, and will be a loss, but good to see him going out at 48. And not a lot of injuries. Well, he had plenty of injuries, but hasn't been left with any kind of impairment from a race injury. So going out healthy, still in the industry, Professor. So good to see.
Yes, Gelding. Over 2,000 winners he rode.
Fantastic
in his career, yeah, and 30 plus Group 1 wins. So if you've won 30 plus Group 1s, you've certainly had a great career.
Oh, exactly. And remember, I think he was in Hong Kong for 8 years, Professor. So you take, when he goes over there, he's probably in his peak.
Yep.
So, what could have, if he had I'm sure Hong Kong was very, very successful for him over there. But if he was riding here in, say, Melbourne and Sydney, that number may be a 50.
Yep.
So, but put him up there as a world-class jockey.
All right, Gelding, what are your two best bets for today's racing?
Very hard day today, Professor. Again, a Flemington meeting, which is very good. The track being a good 4. I like that, Professor. The rail is out 11 metres, so a fair way out, but I think this track gives everyone a good even chance. As I keep saying, Professor, on this show on a regular basis, I regard Flemington as the best track in Australasia. So, if not the Southern Hemisphere. So you always get a pretty good run there. So anyway,
11 metres.
Just
before you, sorry, Gelding, 11 metres though. That's a long way out.
That is a long way out.
33 feet.
Previously was out 8 metres though, Professor. So, I'd imagine if you have a look at it, that's got to be close to, I don't know, half the track, would it? A third to half the track. Probably around about the 40% mark.
Yeah, fair distance, Gelding.
It is indeed. So they're obviously protecting it. Maybe for Savvy Rocker in a couple of weeks, Professor.
Well, that'd be very nice, wouldn't it? When the rail's in the true position.
Oh, dear. Sorry, Professor. You make me laugh. You do make me laugh. But I'm going very late in the day, Professor. Going the last 2 races. Going in the race 8, horse number 1, Lady in Pink, over the 2,000 metres for 3-year-olds. This Leon and Troy Corson's trained horse, Professor, has won its last 2 races. Won at Sandown and then raced beautifully away to win with 56 kg over the distance in a 3-year-old open on the 8th of June, Professor. So, look, it's got 60 kgs today, but with the apprentice Jay Kennedy on it, who rode it last time, will only be carrying 57 kg, Professor. So, only goes up 1 kg for a win at Flemington last time. So, look, fillies and mares in form, Professor, always good to follow. So, happy to stay with Lady in Pink. And as you said, Professor, currently showing $4.80 and $2.
Yep.
So I think it's going to be a nice little each-way bet and something nice for our little parlays. So my first tip, race 8, number 1, Lady in Pink. Second tip, Professor. I go to race 9, and it's number 2, the Black Cloud, trained by Joseph Pride. Its sire, of course, is Seamus Award, Professor. Now, everyone's got to have a Seamus Award, and as we were talking during the week, that's a mini schnitzel, isn't it?
It is a mini schnitzel, Gelding.
Yes, everyone wants a schnitzel.
Yes.
And of course, Seamus Award is by schnitzel. So we couldn't afford a schnitzel, Professor. So we brought the half schnitzel in Seamus Award.
We weren't that hungry, Gelding. We couldn't eat the whole schnitzel. We only got a half.
We only got the half. Beautiful. But this horse, the Black Cloud, 3-year-old filly, by Seamus Award, of course, in the 1,100 metre sprint event, Professor. Joe Pride has brought this filly down from Sydney for this race, where it's had 5 starts, Professor, for 3 wins and 2 seconds. So, a very, very consistent horse. It's won at Randwick, over 1,000, ridden by Jay Ford. It then ran second, only beaten 1.5 lengths at Randwick on a heavy track. Now, I don't know whether Joe Pride had any inclinations, but he's brought 2 horses down to Flemington today, and of course, Sydney races abandoned. So
must be clairvoyant, Gelding.
Must be very good. So I think this horse has a very, very good chance, Professor, and Joe Pride, a very, very good trainer. Jay Ford has come down to ride the horse, so when they come down to stay with these horses, Professor, it must have been a good option for him. So I like race 9, number 2, Black Cloud. You like, Professor?
Yeah, Gelding, I'm going to bookend. You've got the last 2 races. I'm going to take the first 2 races. So race 1, the Ken Cox Handicap. It's an open 2-year-old race over 1,420 metres, Gelding. Well. That would have been a perfect race for Savvy Rocket to run in, wouldn't it?
That would have been very nice, Professor, and let's hope there's one there in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, fingers crossed, Gelding. In this race, Gelding, I like the lightly raced Sneaky Sunrise coming out of Barrier 8. Only the 3 starts for 1 win and a placing. 33% win rate, 67% place rate. Was a nice win last start at this track and over the same distance, Gelding. It's only carrying 1.5 kilos extra today, so it's running at 55.5, but that shouldn't affect it. Daniel Stackhouse is in the saddle, and the Hayes have put this horse on the track, very well trained. $2.70 and $1.40 at the moment, Gelding, so good each way odds. Might start a little bit longer than that, so I'd suggest that punters hang on and don't take the fixed price at the moment, because I think it'll start in around the $3 mark, which would be a very nice return for this horse.
Yes, Professor. The Hazes and their 2-year-olds go very, very well, and in fact we can attest that they don't mind backing them, as they did. They backed one of their horses on Tuesday from $4 into $2 favourite in the race that our horse won. So yeah, they certainly do like them, and he's kept that. So they've certainly got a good record. Not worried about the top weight, Professor?
I had a look at the form of Pisces from the Blue Army. I prefer Sneaky Sunrise in this one. I had a look at the last couple of races. I just think this horse might be a little bit better.
Okay, very good.
A bit disappointed with Pisces last time. We were on it last time, Gelding, when it ran second.
We were, Professor. So, yeah, it was a little bit... It was not a bad run, but a little bit disappointing, as you said.
Well, and it was over a shorter distance too, Gelding. That was a 1,200 metre race, as I recollect.
Yes. So anyway, I'm looking forward to race 1.
We'll see how we go, Gelding.
Yeah, I like it. Love a theory, Professor.
All right, my second selection's in race 2, Gelding, the Boys to the Bush Community Trophy. It's a quality race for 3-year-olds and above, Gelding, over 2,540 metres, and maybe a distance that Savvy Rocket could run over.
Maybe, Professor. Maybe a later date. Yes.
Yeah. We'll see. In this one, Gelding, I like horse number 4, Aberfeldy Boy, coming out of Barrier 1. 13 starts for only the 1 win, but 6 placings, Gelding. So it's got an 8% win rate, 54% place rate. last start at Flemington 2 weeks ago, Gelding. I think it was a good thing beaten. I had a look at the run to say that you could use words like butchered in the wrong place at the wrong time. Gelding, when they're sprinting for the line and the jockey's standing up in the stirrups because he can't get the horse to go because it's going to run over the top of something, that's an indication that the horse can probably do better than where it finished.
Do you think John McNeil owes or something, Professor, on this?
Well,
horse?
hopefully, so given he's got the ride again, Gelding, hopefully he understands that he does owe the connections a little bit for this one. So I'm looking for a much better ride from him today. And it's from the training of Griffiths and de Kock.
Yes. Very good trainers down at Cranbourne.
So that's Alberfeldy Boy. So my two, Gelding, are race 1, horse 4, Sneaky Sunrise, race 2, horse 4, Alberfeldy Boy. Let's turn to the Professor's Parlay, which was very successful last week, Gelding. Both the win and place parlays getting up. Broadsiding did very well in its race. Collingwood defeated North Melbourne, Gelding. When I turned on and Collingwood were 53 points behind, I thought, well, there goes the parlay. What possible things am I going to have to say to the Gelding to explain how I could possibly have gone for Collingwood and what a terrible selection that was and what an inspired selection it turned out to be, Gelding?
Oh, Professor, what were you really, really thinking in the start of the last quarter?
I was close to throwing something at the TV, Gelding.
Were there choice words at the TV?
Oh, there were choice words, and how could Collingwood do this to me? And you can never rely on the Magpies, but a certain 50, Gelding, a certain 50-metre penalty that wasn't paid.
With help from the umpires, Professor, did we get up?
Well, I thought there was an assist. I thought we did get an assist there.
Okay. Will they get a stat for that, will they? Goal assist? No,
they don't get that stat, Gelding. It won't show. It won't show in the stats. They just show free kicks and paid or not paid.
Oh, okay.
Although I did just digressing.
I thought the players get goal assists, Professor.
Yeah, the players do, but not the umpires.
Oh, okay.
Gelding, I did see a funny clip though that North Melbourne player was held in the Collingwood forward pocket, and the umpire blew the whistle for obviously holding the ball. The North Melbourne player hand passed it, and they've come across the front of the goal and gone off, and the umpire's called play on, advantage, play on.
Yes.
Did you see that clip?
No.
Yes, the umpire's called advantage, play on. I'm yelling at the TV, hang on, you gave the free kick to Collingwood. How can it be, if North Melbourne got the ball, how can it be advantage, play on?
Oh, dear.
One of the umpires was at least paying attention, Gelding, because the ball was dragged back and given back to Collingwood.
Yeah. So the 4-umpire system working?
Well, yes, it did then.
Yeah.
All right, and we also had the Roosters to defeat the Eels, Gelding, and we got up in that one. So very successful day for the Professor's Parlay. All right, this week, what have we got? Race 9, horse 2, the Black Cloud, the agreed bet of the day for all the reasons you mentioned earlier, Gelding, and we'll parlay that into Essendon playing at home to beat West Coast. Essendon 4th on the ladder. Average points 483, Gelding. West Coast 16th with only 3 wins. Average points against 94, Gelding. They only score 68, so that's why they've only won 3 games. I think Essendon will be keen to spring back after last week's loss to Carlton. But that being said, they did do a far better job than Geelong did last night against Carlton. And I think, losing to Carlton's no disgrace at this time of the year.
No, Carlton's certainly in form and sitting second on the ladder, Professor. So, very interesting. And
the line's 35.5, Gelding. So the bookies are giving at least nearly 6 goals in. So that'll do me, and especially Essendon at home. I don't know that West Coast travel all that well. And another team that doesn't travel all that well, and I'm banking on that for this last one, Gelding, Fremantle at home to beat Gold Coast.
Yep. I like it, Professor.
Reasoning behind that is Fremantle had a shocker last week. I think they showed what they could do against Melbourne. Gold Coast haven't won away this season, and they're also without Ben King, who's currently second in the Coleman. Don't underestimate losing that 38 goals out of the forward line, and also not the presence there to drag the best defender away. So
exactly.
Gelding,
like
I did a bit of research. Ainsworth and Lukosius are the next two best goal kickers. They've only got 12 each. So there's a fair gap between 38 and 12. I don't know that they're going to be able to kick a score. Brandon Ellis back in the side, Gelding. Last year of his 5-year contract after leaving Richmond. Do you think this might be his last year?
May well be, Professor, but a Richmond premiership player. So from the Richmond glory days, well and truly gone now. But be interesting. He got his flag with Richmond, and then was probably would have been on the borderline for those years playing for Richmond. So obviously took the opportunity to be extremely well paid up there, and he's been good for them.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about that, Gelding.
He's played quite well. So I think that was a win-win situation for both player and clubs.
Yes, Gelding. And the line in this one, 17.5. So the bookie's giving nearly 3 goals in Freo in this one, Gelding. So the Professor's parlay, race 9, number 2 at Flemington, the Black Cloud, into Essendon to beat West Coast, into Fremantle to beat the Gold Coast, Gelding. So
I like it, Professor.
Very comprehensive, Gelding, and a little bit of humour there. So we've done very well today.
Well, Professor, let's hope we can repeat last week.
Fingers crossed, Gelding. We better get off so that you can get to the TAB.
Yes, you've set me an early task again, Professor.
All right, Gelding. So until that's racing next week, it's good luck.
And good punting.